Mike, thanks for giving up your time to do the presentation today. Mike's the Academy Performance Coach here at FC Cincinnati in his second or third season, and then prior to that, he's had a couple of stops in the NCAA. So looking forward to hearing from him now. There was a couple of good questions out there, and I'm sure he'll touch on some of those in his presentation about how they use this technology and other technology in the Academy here at Cincinnati. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you everybody for coming out today. I just want to start off by saying appreciate everybody that came out here, everybody that's going to tune into this video later. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day. I think time is the most valuable thing that you can give to someone, so I really appreciate that. With that being said, my name is Mike, everybody, for those of you that may have forgotten. I'm the Academy Physical Development Coach here at FC Cincinnati. If you have any questions, please feel free to give me a shout. Not me giving you a shout because I'm partially deaf, so please give me a shout if you have any questions at all. I want to treat this like this is a conversation. Let's generate some great questions and let's just go from there. Cool? Excellent. So just like Adrian has touched on before, this is MHTC. We went through a whole expansion period. I'll show you a little bit about what our expansion period looked like before and after, but basically what he said before, this is our home for the first, second team, and the Academy. All of us are within this amazing building, all thanks to Jeff Birding and Dan McNally designing this space so that we are all home to this amazing facility. Those two fields up there are home for the first team, the turf field, the second team, and all of our Academy teams use this space. And we feel that we are so lucky to use this gym space as well to develop these athletes from a strength perspective, a power perspective, all those different things. We are able to use all these spaces to the best of our advantage, and we are grateful for that. And this is our Academy. We are a very young one, just like Adrian touched on earlier, 5 years old, started in 2019. And just recently, our 14th just won Patterson Cup. This is such an amazing accomplishment because everybody here within the Academy, ambitious as can be. And you could just see in this first picture right here, 13s and 14s, they could pretty much do everything that you ask them to do. They're going to train in the snow, they're going to get after it, they're going to do everything they possibly can to get better. And I can tell you right now that if you give them anything to do, they're going to do it to the best of their ability, and they are capable of doing amazing things. Our 15s and 17s, they are preparing for their next step going into playoffs. Just last year, they went to GA Cup, but they didn't make it to the playoff round. Just this year, they made it to the playoffs. And that was a big step for our Academy, having that opportunity to compete at that high level. Both of our 15s and 17s were successful in making MLS Next Cup playoffs. This picture right here, this was our starting 11 when they faced Austin FC right before they played them to get that wild card spot. They were clutch that day and they secured it. Our 17s right here, they secured their opportunity to make MLS Cup playoffs when they won their whole group at MLS Next Flex. Really proud of everything that our teams have done, especially in the 19s too. They're always coming up and down between first team, second team, Academy. That's just the way we work here, because one of our pillars here is develop champions from within. And we totally believe in that mindset, making sure that we are uniform in everything we do within the Academy, fitting in with matching what we do from the first team and the second team. So we want to make sure that we are uniform on that front. This is just a little bit of what I do for all 5 of our teams here. I have the opportunity to develop these amazing kids in the gym, doing session preps right before their session starts, on the pitch with their training sessions. I'm out on game day doing warm-ups. I'm out on game day recording certain notes from what the match entails. Just little notes like when players are substituted, what time the certain segment starts, and I'll talk about that with how easy it is from a PlayerData perspective. And just like Adrian touched on before, you can see in that first photo, that is a storage closet. Do you know what was in that storage closet before? Yeah, so it's just right below us. All 8 of our coaches used to be in that tight office space. And this just goes to show our ambition and our ability to just think outside the box and think, okay, how can we make this place even better? Because now we have this amazing office space, which allows more opportunities for us to collaborate. All of us have our office space, and this is amazing. We can't thank Jeff Birding and Dan McNally and the ownership group enough for just investing in all of us to touch on those pillars and developing champions from within and doing everything they can to give us the tools and the resources in order to do our jobs to the best of our abilities. Just to touch on a little bit about what life was like before, I was using Stat Sports with our academy. Now this is PlayerData. Stat Sport units are quite bulky, quite big. The PlayerData ones, as you just saw in the demo, very small, very manageable to deal with on a daily basis. And there's a lot that we do with these PlayerData units because just like I mentioned before, when I started in August of 2023, I was using Stat Sports with all of our academy teams. However, the bandwidth was not very big because we only had 36 units across our 19s, 17s, and 15s. So as you can see with the general numbers, that's how many athletes we were tracking compared to all those teams. And with that software system, a lot more expensive if we wanted to have all of the athletes that we have be tracked. With PlayerData now, we have everybody tracked from the 19s, 17s, 15s, and some of our high-performing players from the 14s. Some of those players now have the ability to see their own individual metrics, which is amazing because within the app, they're able to see what those numbers look like on a daily basis. And this just allows opportunities for us to answer questions like, oh, how come my speed wasn't as high as yesterday? I noticed that I did a lot. So it just creates opportunities to just answer a lot of questions. And we love this because this just creates so much buy-in and the players are able to take accountability and ownership over everything that they get to do. What I loved about this whole experience of making the segue from Stat Sports to PlayerData is having access to a sports scientist and amazing customer service. Kevin right here, I'm always texting him. He's just awesome like that. Even Buddy too, who's not here today.
Yeah, actually we have to apologize. Buddy did come. He has a stomach bug, so we didn't want to. He landed, and we kept him at the house. We didn't want to bring him.
No, definitely can't bring him. Can't risk that, right? But I can't thank you all enough for just providing that excellent customer service because I always have questions, and sometimes it may be pretty obvious, but I appreciate the fact that you just answered them so clearly and concisely. With the PlayerData app, super easy to use, user-friendly. All of our athletic trainers use them, just like we mentioned before. Brett, Doty, Rio. Without them, it's very hard to do my job. And the cloud system is amazing. Cloud system, so Rio, he was just at Patterson Cup in Kansas City, and he was able to upload all those sessions himself. Again, just like we mentioned, you just need to know when the session starts, when it ends, put all that data together, boom, it is done right on the dot. And I just think that's so fascinating and amazing. All of our sport coaches, they're able to understand this data nicely because it's just so concise and it gives you everything that you need at your disposal. The download/report process, when I was using Stat Sports before, took me about an hour, sometimes a bit longer, with just 36 units. With our 75 PlayerData units now, it's basically been slashed in half. If we had better Wi-Fi here, I think this would take a little bit even quicker. But with our Wi-Fi, I'll admit, it's gotten better over the course of 4 months. Now it just takes me about 25 minutes with all of these units, and I'm able to just generate the reports, let coaches know what the training sessions look like, how our athletes performed in all these matches, and I just think that's great. We use Apollo V2 to basically generate our reports and just look at what the metrics look like on a daily basis from a performance standpoint, a medical standpoint, and so on. And just to segue into that, we're going to talk about the metrics that we look at on a daily basis. So we look at total distance, just the amount of meters that you cover. This could be a jog, a sprint, walking. It's going to cover how much distance you do, no matter what you're doing. High-speed running, just like we touched on outside, we look at zone 5 and zone 6 specifically. We just like to be nice and easy with it. With our 14s and 15s, they are tracked at 16 kilometers per hour when you're entering zone 5. This is nice and swiftly getting back. Zone 6, I like to think of it as you're sprinting back, getting back as quickly as you possibly can. Maybe this is like a fullback getting back on a fast break. A cells, D cells, this is your ability to start and stop on a dime. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that in order to get an A cell or a D cell, it has to be a change of speed of 2.5 meters per second in order to count an A cell, and you just have to stop. So I can do my best to do 2.5 right here. So I'm here, A cell, stop right here. So that would count as 1 A cell, 1 D cell. Does that make sense, everybody? Awesome. Top end speed, I always like to say this because my grandpa always taught me grandpa-isms, as he used to call it. It's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. Does this make sense? Okay. So for us, we're always aiming to train this at least once a week. With training top end speed, my recommendation for you, all of you, is to give them lots of rest. And I'll explain what that looks like a little bit later when we talk about the microcycle. Any questions so far for me? Yeah.
Lucho walks in on his first day, U14.
Yeah.
How long do you track it?
How long do I track him for?
Yeah.
Basically
like the end of the season?
Yeah.
It's just one season, then he moves on to a different cycle.
So.
Going from U14 to U15?
Oh, yeah.
You continually keep the same.
Absolutely.
You don't ever cut it off.
I get what you're asking. So, in terms of like the high-speed run metrics like we were talking about before, obviously I said 14s and 15s are at 16 and 19. If they have the opportunity to move up to 17, we're going to change those speed zones for them because they're probably mature enough to reach those speed thresholds. Does that make sense?
Yeah, kind of. And the second part of that question, on the very first screen there was snow. What are you doing with the data? Because it's going to be different.
No, this is a great point, yeah.
You're not going to be able to sprint at full speed. So how does that affect the data?
So obviously we look at different conditions that they train in. It could be rain, snow, how cold it was. So that's what is great about the PlayerData app. It will track all these metrics no matter what the conditions are. So this is good for you guys because the units will work no matter what condition. And the data is the data, but you can also investigate it a bit further and then answer some questions like, okay, maybe they didn't run as fast because they were running on snow, so maybe we should give them ice skates instead. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Any other questions? No? Okay. This is my daily routine. Very simple routine. I love routines. They are great. 75 units, I bring them all downstairs, just like you saw on my demo, not my demo, but your demo, outside on the pitch. Units are very small, nice little suitcases. Before I was bringing very big, bulky suitcases downstairs in both hands. Now I'm able to just put 4 in my left hand. In my right hand, I have my tablet. Over here, I have my whistle. In my left pocket, always, my stopwatch. Again, I love routines. Bring them all downstairs, distribute them evenly on our table. I tell the players, turn them on. It's very simple. Just click the green button and it'll just magically turn on every single unit, which is awesome. Players put on the units themselves. Again, I trust that they do it. I'm a one-man person here within the academy, so I'm running back and forth, doing a lot of different warm-ups, session preps, doing some gym sessions some days, so I need to trust that these players can effectively do this task. And they do a great job with it. Super easy. They want to see what their data looks like, so they are highly motivated to do this task on a daily. Then they do their training session. The players return their PlayerData units and record their RPEs on the tablet. And I'll speak on this too. With the PlayerData app too, you can send RPEs right after the session. You can also have them do daily wellness as well. This is valuable too, just to see how hard the session was. Gives us a little bit more information, like, okay, if it was an 8, maybe we need to scale back for the next session. Yeah.
What's an RPE for those that might not know?
What's that?
What's an RPE?
Great question. Yeah, love it. Rated perceived exertion. Does this make sense to everybody? So this is just evaluating yourself, how hard the session was or how easy it was. For us, we like to use an RPE scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the hardest, 1 being, that was cake, that was super easy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Awesome. Appreciate that. All right, and then the next and final step is downloading, syncing, generating the daily reports, which is a very seamless process because I just have all 75 units collected right at my desk, have the tablet just go, take my shower. I don't spend too long in there, about 10 minutes, and then I come back, and right then and there, it's done. And then I'm just able to just generate every single report, able to send it off to the coaches, and I'm off on my merry way. Then, what I do from there is PlayerData has been kind enough to generate CSV reports and basically make a Google folder for us. And we make our general reports with Apollo V2 because this is what the first and second team use. So again, we want to be uniform with everything that they do. And we just want to make sure that all of our data is in this software system. So this was what a general report looks like from a daily training session, a game session. So we're always thinking about how we can just make it super easy to report it back to the coaches. If you don't have this capacity to put all of your data in a database, then you could just have PlayerData do it for you. So right here, this is just our home screen of what the general session looked like, the averages, the total amount of distance covered from everybody, the average of the group. You could also segment each drill. If you have a person to help you out and is there on hand to record what time each drill started, what time it ended, then you're in a really good spot because you can learn a lot about what your drills could do. And this is really valuable too because you can learn about what these drills can do on certain days when you want to focus on certain metrics, and I'll touch upon that later. Okay. These are certain sheets right here. The first one up on the upper left corner, that's just a general session. The one in green, if you remember correctly, green was game prep, blue first half, orange second half. So you can see the performance between all these certain segments, like, okay, maybe one of these players just didn't do the work, or one of these players struggled, or hey, this guy did really well on this drill. So let's just use this information at our disposal and basically just start to have some conversations and be really smart with everything.
So you use same expectation for all the drills or different expectation? Like if you, like, I don't know, shuffle, I expect you to get from point A to point B in 10 seconds, versus like if you want running, I expect you to get there from 5.
So for me, I like to just be very easy in this setting. So this is something that I can even consider too. Maybe we just have certain expectations, like if it's conditioning, if it's a certain speed that we want to achieve, then we just do the math and say, hey, I want you to reach this in a certain amount of seconds. And if you do this, then we are in a very good spot. So, but in our setting, I just tell them, run as fast as you possibly can and just get there in a safe manner. Does this make sense? Perfect. Last point I'm going to talk about is just a couple of resources that have really helped me out in just thinking about the overall picture with all of our players, because the most important thing for us is making sure that they are performing at a very high level. They play a lot of different games, but the objective here within the academy is to develop them too. This is a hard task because a lot of teams, for sure, they are scared to train in season, going into the gym. They see it as a daunting task. And of course, if you're training a lot of volume and they're feeling sore, of course they're not going to want to come back. So my job sometimes is, it's challenging, but I'm very ambitious and I want to make sure that they are developing, getting stronger, faster and powerful. This is why I'm here. I want to make these kids better, and I want to help them achieve their dreams and their aspirations to getting to that next level. The first resource that has really helped me out to answer some questions about what distances certain academies do is this. I'm just going to read it for the people that aren't here today. Seasonal training and match load and microcycle periodization in male Premier League Academy soccer players. This is by Hannon et al. This is a resource that has given me a good baseline to see where our players stack up against other EPL clubs. Another good resource is Peak Performance for Soccer by Alex Calder and Adam Centofanti. A bunch of other authors have contributed to this awesome book that I have read numerous times. I still have it at my desk. I still refer back to it, thinking about what I can do on a daily basis to basically make the best training program possible so that these kids are developing in a safe manner. Last thing I want to talk about is just everything that we do from a 10,000 square foot view, just from a weekly standpoint. So I'll talk about the theme, session objectives, not too much about the drill notes, because for you as coaches, for you as practitioners, I want you to think about what is best for your situation. I want you to think about how you can fit in drills to reach the certain thresholds that maybe the physical coach has set up. Does this make sense? Awesome. And I'll talk about how I fit in the gym stuff from a match day +2, -4, and so on. The first thing I want to start with is match day. We're always reverse engineering from our match day. We're always thinking about how much distance a player is covering in a certain match, how much high-speed run volume they're getting, how much A cells and D cells they're getting, how much sprint distance they may cover. We want to reverse engineer and appropriately periodize from that. With me so far? Perfect. Match day +2, we just talk about recovering to the best of their possible ability. Do you know what I mean by the big three at all? I'll just give it to you just to be very easy. I just tell the kids, hey, let's just aim to get 8 to 10 hours of sleep. If you could do that, that's your number one recovery tool. Second one I talk about is just hydration. Own your hydration, drink plenty of water, get electrolytes in, whatever you're able to do. Third one is replenish yourself. Get as much nutrition as you can. Protein, carbohydrates, fats, all of them are super important. I just tell them very basically, just get as much as you can on your off days. When we talk about match day -4, our spaces are going to be tight. So this means if we're talking about an A cell and D cell perspective, we're going to see the most amount on our match day -4 because our spaces are tighter. And from the physical side of things, from that perspective, we're talking about lateral speed and change of direction work, or you could do this in a linear fashion too. Linear just means straight line. Makes sense so far? With the plyometrics, I'm going intense with them. And from what that means is, if I'm doing 1 rep with them, I want them to do it all out. So if I'm doing a broad jump, I'm going boom, all the way out, and I'm sticking it. So that was a max effort right there. Does this make sense? My apologies here. That's what happens when I jump around too much. Anyways, some of the drills here, you can take a look at them and just see how you can reach certain numbers such as 5,200 meters, 75 meters of high-speed run volume, and 25 meters of sprint distance. You can see right here, the overall aim is not necessarily high-speed run volume or sprint distance accumulation. That is going to be saved for our Wednesday session or our match day -3. Our match day -3, you can see from a visualization that our spaces are much bigger, and this is our day to load up. This is our day to really get after it from that perspective, open up the space, maybe get volumes like 6,500 meters, maybe a little bit less, maybe 6,300, working with a U17 group. Maybe getting 300 meters of high-speed run volume, maybe getting 100 something meters of sprint distance. For me, on the physical side of things, I'm trying to give them opportunities, at least 2, to reach their max speed as well. And I'm preparing them to basically run as fast as they possibly can. So I'm working on certain drills, always working on their mechanics as well. So some A skips, some B skips, some ankling as well. Just some things that I've gotten from Exos, and just collaborating with Brett quite a bit too, because he's really knowledgeable about that, and I'm thankful for him because we talk about that quite often. And just to talk about the gym stuff, I use it a lot. So on a -3, I'm doing some Nordics, I'm doing some groin work, and of course this is right after a session. I would not recommend doing Nordics before a session because you're lengthening that muscle. So it's best that you perform your max speed, you perform the whole session, and then right afterwards you reward them by giving them some Nordics. Guys love it. If we want to talk about what you can start with from an overall volume, maybe you could start off by doing 2 sets of 2, then 2 sets of 3 the week after, then maybe 2 sets of 4. You get where I'm trying to say? I would not start them off by doing hundreds of reps. I would keep it very, very low at first. Nordics are very challenging to do, so I would recommend that you start very easy and gradually build them up. And what I like to think about a lot of times too when I'm thinking about the long-term athletic development approach, it's like cooking a nice roast. I know this is hypocritical of me at times because I just want it done. I like microwaves and I just like to get it done. But with our setting, a slow cook is really good for these kids. So for us, it's super important. Let's take our time to develop these qualities and go from there. Any questions so far? Yeah.
When you talked about the high speeds within that,
Yeah.
what part of the session do you try to get them to hit their top speed? And
Excellent question. I love that.
how do you work with the staff to be able to fit that into a session?
No, really good. My personal recommendation, I'll even talk about my experiences right now. So on Wednesdays with our flow, we usually have the 17s go first. Pretty easy because we just have that whole team go. Then the next block after that, we have the 15s and 17s. Excuse me, not the 15s, 17s. We have the 15s and 19s go together. Then I have to go back inside and do a gym session with the 14s. So it's all about like managing good time, managing when I can work with these players individually. Because if I'm asking them to reach their top end speed in a warm up, it's not enough time because a lot of these kids are traveling from so far away, from possibly Indiana or a little bit further, Louisville, pretty far away, a lot of driving. So with that being said, fitting that in, maybe if you do max speed prep, then you do maybe a transition rondo, then maybe the next activity after that is like, hey, let's go back to Mike. Oh, we're not doing conditioning, right? No. We're just focusing on running as fast as we possibly can. Does this make sense? Perfect. And I think what's best for you is just to give them 2 opportunities. So this could be anything. It could be a flying 10. You could also record and segment that drill and see, okay, did you run that fast? And I think this is a really good point too. Think about a lot of different things right now. Record, rank, and publish. I've gotten this ideology from a person named Andrew Benham. He's right now at Virginia working with baseball. He does a tremendous job because I think that's very simple. If you record, rank, and publish and you show your players where they're at, very highly motivated to basically be better than their competitors. Make sense? Awesome. Next, we'll talk about match day -2. This for us is a multi-directional emphasis day, reaction base. I'm mostly throwing reaction base in here because of the fact that on a -1, we're most likely not going to train. Because for me, I'm traveling with the 15s and the 17s. On a -1, we're typically traveling, or we'll just have off on this day. Make sense so far? Otherwise, I'd probably just do some change of direction work, and I would just save the reaction based stuff for a -1 and just save the agility for that. But I'll also go back and talk about a -2, and when I first start out with the team that's coming from August, I'll mostly tell them like where they go. This is the definition of change of direction. hey, you're going here, and I want you to A-cell and D-cell in these exact positions. Then as you gradually build up time and you notice that their mechanics are getting better and better each week, okay, let's throw in some agility opportunities. Let's do some 1v1 situations. Very reactive in nature. Now they're able to react on what their counterpart is doing. And also I'm throwing in some intensive multi-directional plyometrics. Another good resource that you can look at is the 8-Vector System book. This will give you some good ideas of what you could do from developing change of direction abilities from multiple planes of motion. Instead of just jumping out like a broad jump all the time, you could jump out and then you could jump out at a certain angle, 0 degrees, 135 degrees, 90 degrees, and so on. Make sense so far? And the reason why I'm doing intensive plyometrics is because I'm doing the gym sessions too. So if you can notice, I'm following a high-low method. Tuesday is high. Wednesday, doing extensive plyometrics, getting off the ground quick. Following me? On Thursday, max effort, right? And so with that being said, going back from what I was talking about with the A-cell, D-cell volume, let's touch on this. Tuesday is should be your highest. Wednesday should follow a little bit less right after. Your Thursday should be a little bit less. Then your Friday, your match day -1 should be less. So it should be starting up and then gradually going down. And then when you go up to your match day, it should skyrocket all the way up. This is something that I talk about all the time with Costas and Phil and Gary. And we're just making sure that from a low perspective, we're making sure that we are following certain trends like that. So that we are making sure that we have longevity with our players. Last thing I'm going to talk about is match day -1. We want to keep it very simple. We want to make them feeling fresh. Sessions should be pretty small, maybe 60 minutes, if that. Maybe it could look like 3,000 meters, but we want it to be fun, reactive, give them some confidence, work on some tactics. Does this make sense to everybody? Yeah.
Now, what happened match day Saturday, match day Wednesday? Does it all change?
No, this is a great question. For sure. So for our setting right now, we typically just have matches only on Saturdays and Sundays. This is just based on our schedule. However, every setting is different. And this is something that I want you all to think about when you're basically building out your own framework, right? Because every setting is different. In the pro setting, they typically have a match on a Saturday and a Wednesday. So with that being said, if we do the math, we have a Saturday match. That's a 1, 2, Wednesday. There's your match. So that's going to be a +1, then a +2. So with that being said, this is good to talk about too. Maybe you could divide up groups where you have starters. You have another group that are reserves. So you have different modalities and different intensities that you're focusing on with each group. With the starters, probably just focusing on making sure that they're fresh, recovered, and ready to go for that Saturday. With the reserves, maybe we give them some more opportunities to build up some high-speed run volumes so that they are prepared to enter the match and they're not unprepared when they get that opportunity. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Perfect. Anybody else have any other questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
What if like you have the player that they have like different routes? Like some player have like run 3 miles and other one run like 4 miles.
Yeah.
So what are you gonna do like next session? You're gonna make recovery for someone and give more route for other one. I mean like you know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand what you're trying to ask for sure. So the way that our staff looks at it and what we basically determine it like is if we have a starting group, they basically play let's say 85 minutes and above, probably going to need time to recover. With the other groups that maybe got like 45 minutes, probably consider them to be part of the reserve group or got 45 minutes or less. So with that being said, you can also do top end work right after the match. This is something that we've done in the past too, and this is something that you can do as well. With top end work, we're not trying to get them to 10,000 meters. We're probably going to give them opportunities to get high speed run volumes because we're thinking about quality over quantity. And I think this is really important to reiterate, because if we're just trying to give them all this volume, what good is it going to do for us? I think quality over quantity is what you should aim for instead of just all this volume. Cool?
Thank you.
No, I honestly, let me just thank all of you today, and anybody that just watched this video, because your time is valuable, and I'm appreciative that you all came out today. I'm appreciative that you all listened to this talk. And if you have any other questions for me, please feel free to reach out to me at brown@fccincinnati.com, or you can even reach out to me at my Instagram, Coach MB Brown. I'm always available. I promise you this, I'll respond to you in 24 hours. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Yeah. Thanks very much again, Mike, for a very interesting and informative presentation and some great questions there. I think we'll be kicking around if anyone has any more, but if not, we'll wrap it up. Feel free to get some more food or snacks on the way out, and thanks everyone for coming down. Yeah. And thanks to everyone at Cincinnati for hosting us, even though...
No, I appreciate it, yeah.
It's nice to come into this wonderful facility and check it out.
Yeah.
Was there a, I don't know if I saw this correctly, but